Ooh, that looks tasty.
Welcome folks, Today the Hungry Gamer is back with another mini review or preview. I'm not quite sure how to call this, but today we are talking about 5 Wards from Dragon Egg Games and designed by Dickie Chapin. And this is a 2 to 5 player game that is a dice drafting and area control style game that plays very, very quick. And I said it's a review or preview because my understanding is that this is just pre-order. It's not going to Kickstarter or anything like that. So it's just a straight up pre-order. And pretty much what I have is what you're going to get, but not quite. What I have is not quite what you're going to get. There's going to be some changes and all that. So I don't know quite how to define it. But the gameplay is going to stay the same. The components might be a little bit different, but mostly are going to stay the same. So what this game is, this is a game where each player takes on a action, a gang in Victorian England, and you're fighting for control of these 5 wards. And to do that, each round you're going to roll a bunch of dice and you're going to draft dice. And each die is going to have a symbol on it. And the symbols are going to correlate to the different landmarks that are up at the top. And by drafting a die, you get to do 2 things. You can either get 2 resources, there's only 3 resources in the game that you're using, well, 4 if you count the tactics cards. Or you're going to be able to place one of your thugs, one of your discs, onto one of the landmarks. And when the landmarks fill up, those thugs get deployed into the districts that the kind of arrows on the cards are pointing to. So it always changes up a little bit. And when you're deploying, each district has a kind of a bonus that you're able to activate for some of those resources. Or you can use those resources to do different things. You can use the blast to remove thugs from other gangs from your district. You can use the bolster to move one of your thugs around, or you can use the bribe to allow you to place thugs into the district where the inspector is. And that's going to change every round as well. And there's also brawls that you can get into, and whoever wins the brawl, which is determined by a single symbol in the upper corner of the brawl card. And then every player is going to be allowed to play their tactics cards, which are these one-use cards that have various powers that do different things. They tell you on the card what they do. But at the top left of the card, it has a brawl symbol. And if that symbol matches the one on the brawl card, you can use it to flex your muscle in that brawl that's going on. And you're able to use those dice that you drafted that had the different symbols on them as well. And then whoever wins that brawl gets to place 2 more of their thugs anywhere on the board, and the brawl card's going to be worth a point. That's mostly it. As these landmarks, and you're going to keep on doing this dice drafting until a landmark card is filled up or a brawl shows up, and then the thugs out there on a filled landmark card or a brawl get sent out into the wards. And then every time more thugs go into different wards, if you put more thugs in that specific round into a ward than were already stacked up in the middle of it, which is the ward boss, you kick out whatever faction that was, and you now become the new ward boss. That gives you minor bonuses as you go through the game. And you're simply going to play until the deck of landmark cards is empty, and it's not very long. Game plays in about an hour or so, an hour and 20 minutes, the first time you learn the game. And it's pretty quick and pretty simple. So what do I like about the game? First, most of the game, I really like the look of it. I love this look, this kind of woodcut, whatever look of the game. I love the way the board looks. I think it just looks awesome. I love that. I love the vibe of the different gangs. They each have a lot of personality when you look at the different gang player boards and all. Oh, that's super, super cool. I really like that there's a simplicity to the resources. They don't do a lot of things. It's easy to figure out what they do, how you use them. Very, very simple. Same thing with the tactics cards. They're very clean. They're very simple, and they tell you exactly what they do. It's not hard to figure out. In fact, nothing in this game is hard to figure out what you're supposed to do and how it works. All that I think is fantastic. And all of it leads into this vibe of the game is a knife fight in a phone booth. And I've said that before with a couple of games. The one that this reminds me the most of is Court of Miracles, that though the mechanics of how you put people out into the different wards is very, very different, it has a lot of that same feeling. It's very tense. You are regularly changing control of these different wards, and you're able to mess with each other's pawns that are out there in a way that doesn't feel mean. It just feels like, yeah, well, that's what's happening, that's what's going on. And I think it's very, very clever. I like the way the dice work. It gives a little bit of randomness there, but the way the tactics cards interact with those dice, you have some mitigation. You're doing a draft. There's always more dice than you're going to actually draft in a round. So I think it really does work well. And additionally, I like the way that both the dice and the cards are multi-use, because when that brawl comes up, the dice that you've drafted can be used in the brawl, as can your tactics cards. But of course, you use your tactics cards for the brawl. You're not using them for their tactics. And so all of that, I think, is really, really clean and really, really clever. So what are my quibbles with the game? First one is, I've played it at 2. And I've played it multi-handed by myself with more, because I simply couldn't get more people down in a time when I could actually get this thing played. So do take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, that my experience with higher player count is not really experienced the higher player count. It's just me with my experience playing games. So do take that with a grain of salt. But I think that this game plays fine at 2-player. It's fine. It's kind of a chess match. And again, that's why I compare it to Court of Miracles, because if you follow the channel for a long time, you know that I love Court of Miracles, but at 2, it's a very different game. When you're playing at 3, it's so much more interesting because of what's happening in those different wards. There's more people in there. It's not just head-to-head slugfest. You always have to take into account what is the third player doing? You can't just focus on one player. And again, I'm saying that when I knew what everybody was doing, because I was doing it. So I think it's very, very clever. It's a very, very fun, interesting game at higher player counts, to the point where I really, really am looking forward to playing it at 4, maybe even 5. All that I think is great. The next thing I'm going to say is, I feel like as good as the board looks, and as good as the factions look, and as good as the box cover looks, I feel like some of the other components just don't live up to that level of theme. And so your thug tokens are just these. They're just discs. And I just wish that they put something on them, because they're color coded. Like, each of the factions has a color, and you have discs in each color. So, give me some stickers. I don't know, just something. I wish there was something there. I mean, these dice are amazing. Like, these dice are so good. And then you look at these tiles that you have for each ward, and you get bonus. So I can spend a blast, and instead of getting 1 of my thugs to a ward, I can put 2 by spending a blast. And the same thing with the ward victory. At the end of the game, each ward has a different scoring mechanic, and these are the tiles that you put out. And this side, I guess, isn't. This side, I guess, okay, that's where the inspector is, and it's on the back of each side. That's fine. I don't know. I'm disappointed by it. That's all I can say. I'm disappointed by it. Which brings me to the other thing, that I hope that there's an additional maybe expansion or something down the road. That these tiles, the ones that come in the box, I think is fantastic for your first game, but I want more variety. I think there needs to be more variety, because more variety in those, I think, was going to keep the game interesting longer and longer and longer. And even by the end of my first game, I was able to look at those tiles out there and say, okay, nope, I really need to make sure I save the resource for this, because that is clearly better than this other thing here. And it just took away some of the vibe from me. And the last 2 things I'm going to talk about is, I really wish each faction was asymmetric. They look it, they could be it, but they're all functionally the same. And I think that's a miss, especially, even just on the other side of the player board, something that, even so once per game thing, just something. Different starting resources. I don't know, just something I think is a little bit of a miss there. And the last thing is, there are 6 brawl cards in the game, and there are 6 different symbols on the die. And there is 1 brawl card per symbol, and you know that. And I talked to the designer about this, and he said that he found players wanted to be able to kind of count what's been used and what's going on and what might be left, and that level of determinism they liked. For me, I wish that I had double the cards and it was a little bit more random, because I found it anticlimactic if I had mustache cards, if I knew we'd already had the mustache brawl, then just burn them. And there was no reason to hold on to those cards. And it took away some of that tension from me of, do I play these now or do I hold on to them? But all that being said, I actually quite enjoyed this game. And when I compare a game to Court of Miracles, that says a lot, because I really think Court of Miracles is the gold standard of fast, knife fight in a phone booth, in your face, easy to learn, easy to play, easy to understand, hard to master area control games. It just works. And I think this one works too. And I forgot to mention at the beginning that I was sent this prototype, and they may send me a production copy of it as well, though I have no agreement with them for that, and I certainly have not been paid any money to make this video. So there you have it, folks. That is 5 awards. As always, if you found this video useful, please like, subscribe, share, maybe become a channel member. As always, thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.